The following podcast is taken from a live broadcast on Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome to Sister Speak. You're here with me, Mariam. Also joined in the studio is...
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's Fareen, live from the studio, not online now.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, yeah. It's nice to be back. The studio smells the same, the vibes are the same.
Very anecdotal. We're very happy to be back, and today's topic we'll be talking about greed and individualism. We thought it'd be quite a pertinent topic, being that especially in terms of the climate that we're in and what we're seeing around the world, you can see that those kind of manifestations are quite prevalent, especially when we look at social media and what people prioritize. But as we delve into the show, before we do that, we would like to say what the show is about. So Fareen, what is the show about?
So our show is a platform for Muslim girls to voice their own opinions on current events and issues, and even form discussions on general topics such as religion, culture, politics, social media, etc. Please note all opinions and views are our own, and we respect all other or opposing similar views.
Yes. So if you do want to join in the discussion, Fareen, how can they join us? So
you can call us on 01582 481 822. You can also send us a WhatsApp message if you don't want to be calling at 07779 481 822. We're also really active on any social media platform. So on Instagram at Sister Speak. If you have any thoughts after the show, or if you want to recommend us some topics that you want to listen to on the radio, you can send us a message there. We also have a hashtag going on called Thought of the Week on Twitter. So if you want to share your Thought of the Week, we will be reading them out loud. And finally, we have TikTok as well at Sister Speak _.
Absolutely. So if you do want to join the discussion, do let us know your thoughts. As Fareen mentioned, we are on multiple social media platforms. But before we do that, before we get into the main crux of the show, we have a segment called Thought of the Week. And in this segment, we talk about something that's anecdotal, something that we're thinking about, or perhaps just a reflection. So Fareen, what is your Thought of the Week?
What is my thought of the week? I haven't had a really... you know how I always pre-think my thoughts of the week? I haven't had any chance to talk about it. But I think I'm just going to go with... I really like to talk about social media. Anyone who's been here listening to the show, is my strong point. So my thing would be so everything that's happening right now in the world, we can just post and raise awareness is really important. So raising awareness is never bad. And sorry guys, we're just setting a bit. Yeah, so raising awareness and using your social media platforms responsibly is always really important. And I don't think anything that's raising awareness or is bringing a bit of focus on an important topic or an important issue going on in the world is ever going to be too much or too less. I think it's just important to post it and, do your research before you post anything on social media or speak on any political kind of issue.
I think it's really important, especially in the climate that we're in. It's really important to critically have a lens in terms of where you get your news, and to be able to kind of ascertain what is actually reliable and what's unreliable. But I've just been joined by two special guests. I'm going to consider Sonia a guest because it's been a couple of months, but it's very good.
No, I'm a presenter. I'm back.
She's back. That's my sadness. That she wasn't here for a long time, but all for a good cause, which we will delve into. So welcome back, Sonia.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be back. Hello, girls.
We're happy to have you back. It's been so long. You've been so busy and everything.
I know, but we'll talk about it.
We'll just talk about it shortly. And we're also joined in the studio by
Anissa.
Anissa, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today.
Me.
Thank you for joining us today. And so the first segment, we were actually just talking about Thought of the Week, which is just a segment where we just share reflection, something anecdotal, or just an insight. Fareen just talked about social media. So Sonia, do you want to give your Thought of the Week?
Oh, my Thought of the Week. I've completely forgot. Sorry, it's been so long.
She hates it?
No, I love the Thought of the Week. My Thought of the Week this week would be... I think this is going to be very basic, and I've probably said it 100 times, but take time out for yourself. And even if that's like a 30-minute, just dedicate, actually think, the next 30 minutes I'm going to do something like have a nice meal for myself, or just, I don't even know, whatever it is, journal, watch TV or whatever. It's just 30 minutes to yourself, because I think this kind of links into, you were talking about social media as well, but there's so much happening all the time, which we consume all the time as well. And there's people and there's social media and this, but you just sometimes need like, okay, no, me time, just me alone. So yeah, that's my thought of the week.
I think that's really important, especially in terms of like now the times have gone forward and we're starting our days in the dark and we end our days in the dark, and it's really important that we just carve some time out for ourselves to ensure that our mental health is all okay and our well-being is looking after. But Anissa, what is your thought of the week?
Mine kind of relates to that because I'm a bit like, I've recently learned, like, be happy with what you have while you're pursuing what you want. Because I think every time you reach a goal, you're kind of thinking, like, okay, what's next? And I think sometimes you don't realise, like, I've achieved this, let me enjoy that moment. So definitely more taking the time to live in the moment and process reality.
I think that's also. I think all of your thought of the weeks all tie in together.
Yeah.
I think being present in that in your life is really important as well, just because it's so easy to be engrossed by what you're going through and not just taking the moment to actually realize that you've achieved the milestones that you've always kind of wanted to do. It's something that's really important, and that's what's going to good segue for Sonia's premiere, which I'm so proud of. Which is my thought of the week is I'm just so incredibly proud of Sonia for producing her first ever documentary, the first of many, inshallah. And it's just really nice to know that for the whole year you've been talking about it, and it's finally nice to finally see your real product. So I want to ask you, like, what was the process like, and just talk us through your whole process.
I could talk about it forever, Mariam. So I'll try to get like a nutshell. Obviously, it started in like March, April time, and I spoke about it on Sister Speak, and I was so happy, and I shared the news with you guys that I got the commission, and ever since then it's been hard work. I'm not, because you have full-time work and you have all your chores and whatever it is that you normally do as well, but you have to make time for things that you are passionate about or you want to do. And that's something, when I won the commission, I knew, okay, I'm taking this seriously now. I'm going to dedicate time, effort and energy into it. So I did, and there was weekends, there was late nights, there was early mornings, and just going back to do the same thing again. Because don't get me wrong, like filming, that's what I want to do. It's the best. It's the most best thing for me. But sometimes even then you're like, oh, here we go again. Like, it's not done. Here I am back at the same place, re-recording this because it didn't work the first time, or we've just lost 2 hours of footage or something. So there is highs and lows, of course, with anything there is. But yeah, overall it's such an amazing experience, and I've learned so much. I think I've definitely developed in my creative kind of career way, like development in general. There's so much that I didn't know that I do know now. And just talking to the people in Berry Park was so amazing, because it's talking to people that you wouldn't usually talk to on a different level. So for example, like the person who sells fabric in Berry Park, usually you're just like, can I get 6 yards of whatever it is that you need? But when you actually say to them, like, when did you come to this country, or when did you open up your shop, you find out so many amazing things, and you're like, wow, I actually really like you, and I really like the story you're telling me as well. So that was really nice as well, to develop those relationships and those stories. So that was nice. And sorry, I forgot your question. I just started talking about the whole thing.
I think it's really, just like your documentary, very organic.
Thank you.
What I wanted to ask you is, for those who don't know about your documentary, and what was it about, who commissioned it, and what was that process, and what does that look like?
Okay. It was commissioned by Revolution Arts and supported by Bloomberg Philanthropy. And in terms of what the documentary actually was about, it was about Berry Park and just the development of the area, and being a person that's born and raised in Luton and living in Luton. And the reason why I did it is because I felt like Luton was getting a lot of negative press before that. And just naturally, you have like friends that live out of town. I'm sure you've all experienced this. When there's something bad about Luton, they'll send it to you like, aha, this new thing about Luton has come out again and it's bad. It's the worst place to live in the UK or something. That's in quotation marks, by the way, because I don't believe that. And that's kind of why I made the whole documentary and what it's about. That It's a good place to live, and it's just like any other town, really.
Yeah, I think one of the main things that kind of stood out to me is how you wanted to shift the narrative around how Luton is just seen as a place that has a lot of negative connotations, but actually you wanted to humanise it and share the stories and celebrate the diversity that we have in our town. I think one of the things what I really enjoyed about your documentary is how organic it was, and how the people in Berry Park were the ones that are storytelling, and that made the whole entire documentary it was sequential in terms of how the story would kind of unfold. And I just felt, and I think Assam actually mentioned as well that it felt like a Stacey Dooley documentary. I genuinely believe the caliber and the skill and the craft of it was incredible. And I really, really hope that, inshallah, this is the first of many, many documentaries. Fareen, do you want to have any thoughts on that? Because you were also at the premiere.
Yeah, honestly, I had a great time, and I can't wait for I don't know where the documentary is going to be at, but I can't wait for everyone to see it. And you know how everyone was saying, so in the documentary, Sanya asked a couple of questions, and everyone was like, Bury Park feels so safe, feels so that, and it's like the premiere felt so safe as well. When we were all watching, it just felt like a little family watching a movie. So yeah, I'm so proud of you, Sanya, and I'm really, really, I really like the documentary. I really like the premiere as well.
Thank you.
And the funny thing is that most of the people that you interviewed, I've talked with before when I was in Bury Park. So it's all these people, you don't know them.
Exactly.
You know, so with this documentary, you knew what they think of Bury Park. Because sometimes you just think, oh, they don't like it, they're not doing this. But in that moment, in that documentary, you can see that everyone likes Bury Park. It's such a safe place, so diverse, and everyone was saying nice things about it. And I loved also the little you didn't cut out any the natural things where you start laughing or you get things wrong. So yeah, it did feel really organic and really natural.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad that the premiere also felt like Bury Park in a way, because that's what we were trying to do, because it was set in the centre of Bury Park, the premiere. We didn't do it like in a theatre or somewhere with like a cinema screen or anything. We literally did it in a community centre in Bury Park, because we wanted you to feel those vibes. And I'm glad you said it's organic too. And I don't know if you remember, but we did ask someone, what's your pet peeves? Like, what negative points are there? Because every place in the world will have something that's negative as well, and then they do mention it, but they also that's just life. Yeah, and I don't know if you remember, but one of the kids that we interviewed, he said, well, it depends what you do and which crowd you're in, which is so true.
That's very profound as well. I think that was a very good reflection, because it's how you create your community and how you assert yourself in that space. Anissa, do you have any thoughts? Did you manage to come?
I also had the pleasure of being there, and it was really like what you did in the movie is what you also did in that room, like the diversity and like the way you have brought people together. And it was just so nice. It was just so nice to see that. Yeah, the way you bring people together in your movie and in that room. And I think it's what you said. You kind of showed all the goodness of why Luton can be such an amazing place to live in, the community feeling of it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you go to this is the documentary now? I'm just going to do the documentary.
Okay. Go for it.
Do you go to Bury Park, and if so, why?
I can't say I go so often, but definitely when there's a reason, say if it's for Eid or a wedding, I do go to the shops and see what I can buy for outfit wise. But again, in terms of especially what we eat and stuff like that, Bury Park is a place to go, because culture, authenticity, the places we come from, it's all available there in Bury Park, and we're kind of fortunate enough that we have that so close to us.
Definitely, yeah, because a lot of people,
with our roots.
I agree with you, and a lot of people don't have that accessibility to have somewhere to go if they do want the clothes or the food, you mentioned. Yeah. And what about you, Fareen?
I'm always in Bury Park. It's my, like you said, it's my main trigger for outfits, for everything. Now that I'm living out on campus and university, I don't have that comfort.
Wow.
So whenever I have to buy, for example, halal meat, I have to take a bus, and I have to travel 40 minutes to Hayes or whatever it is, because in this place that I live, there's no halal meat. So obviously I miss that comfort, because in Bury Park there's everything. What's there to miss in Bury Park?
Yeah, and see, saying something like that, you really realise how the advantage that we do have having Bury Park.
It's a privilege in some sense, because we get to have that still a part of our actual our home, our roots still within our, what do we call it? Our second.
I get what you're trying to say. We're not in Bangladesh or Pakistan or India or whatever South Asian diaspora, but you have that feeling there.
That little bit of home.
But then on that, Mariam, I'm literally taking over now. But would you say that there's things there that are for people that aren't South Asian?
I think it is predominantly South Asian, but I do think it's accessible for everyone. I think it's very welcoming. People are very welcoming, and people are intrigued if other people that don't come from the community, they're very welcoming and hospitable, and they want to share their stories, or they want to be able to welcome them into the shop. So I think in that sense, no one closed their doors. I think everyone's open. It's just you have to be proactive and go there.
So, you know what, a lot of footage was cut out because naturally with the film, footage is cut out, and such good things that I couldn't include. Like, it literally kills me because I'm like, that should have been in the thing, but you have to, right? So maybe there'll be bloopers, maybe I'll put another... Yeah, I could, honestly I could, or like a behind the scenes, or just a compilation of, here's some other clips that you just never got to see. So one of them was a shop owner, and he is in it, but just a little bit, and he's in a cash and carry, I think. And I said to him, do you think there's things sold here, or not sold, but like anything in Berry Park where a non-Asian person can enjoy and achieve? And he said, yeah, we sell toilet tissue. And I literally, I was like, what do you mean by that? He goes, every person in the world needs toilet tissue, so it's not just for Asians, is it? Oh, he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. So it's still shopping at the end of the day, right? Like, just normal essentials and food. Everybody eats as well. So yeah, I definitely think that there is... I mean, I know I would say there is something for everyone in Berry Park, but...
Toilet tissue.
Yeah, honestly, and he said he's got really good prices as well,
Okay.
it's good to know.
Where was he during COVID?
He was there, and now he's still here in the cost of living crisis, so, you know, if you guys need toilet tissue, go to Berry Park. But yeah, there's so much footage that I would love to just share.
What was
further.
one of the footages that you really wish that was part of it that couldn't unfortunately be part of the documentary?
So much. I mean, I think one of them for me is, if you guys remember, there was a MMA fighter and trainer that teaches only female classes, and she has so many achievements that I would have liked to speak about more and highlight more. So she was on the front cover of a magazine as being someone that teaches only like, it was the fact that she is a Muslim hijab wearing woman teaching female only MMA classes that was highlighted on the magazine, and she was on the front cover, and I was like, that's so amazing. This is like a nationwide magazine. I think it was international. And then also, I kind of mentioned this on the premiere date as well. It was like in collaboration with Nationwide, the bank. Like, that is huge.
Such a huge achievement.
Exactly, that's a huge achievement. And I wanted people to know that as well. Obviously, like I said, you can't include everything, but that's Hasina Rahman, and she's going to do amazing anyway, but it's like stuff that I would have loved to include in the documentary. There's loads of other things as well, just people on the street saying funny stuff. Like, there was a couple of Bengali guys in a grocery store, and they in depth were describing what a jackfruit is, and we call it khatol, and they were just going in on it and like, you have to come, but in Bengali, like, enjoy this khatol. And we didn't have time to like add subtitles for the translation part of it, so I was like, okay, it's fine, just cut it out. But I would have loved to include that as well.
I think that's really sweet, and so that they take pride in the fruits that are, I guess, quote unquote exotic, but it's actually for home for them. And the fact that they want to describe to you, okay, this is a fruit that's special in our country, I think it just shows like the welcome that they want to do to people, and the fact that they want you to, they have a sense of belonging to their home, to their heritage, and they want to share that with everyone. I think that really shines in Berry Park.
Yes.
Because everyone has their own little homes, but then they all come together and create that community. And I think that manifestation is seen a lot, especially in times of Eid and celebration, and as you mentioned in the documentary, when there's cricket matches and things like that. I think people all come together, but quite similarly as well, when there's a devastating kind of thing that's happening in our community, everyone also comes together and everyone mourns together and grieves together. Or even that whole group that called Keep Luton Safe, that came out because, you know, there was a lot of things happening in Luton that wasn't safe, and so therefore taxi drivers came together and patrolling the streets to make sure that the people are safe in Luton, and that's how it derived. And I think that's what's so beautiful about Luton. I think it's very intrinsic that we have that community feel. Do you add a thought?
No, yeah. First of all, I didn't know that it was the taxi drivers that said.
This is how it started off like that. Yes.
So they said, we're going to come together and patrol the streets.
Yeah, we're going to just to keep an eye out, just to see, you know, if anything kind of is unsafe, and then you can report things. And then it became larger, and then there's admins and all that.
There's like a Facebook page.
There's a Facebook page, but that how it started off, because there was a lot of unsafe activities that were happening.
This is what you need to do, take action as a community, right? And I think Berry Park is definitely one of the few places where I do feel like community vibe. And there was a lot of people that came from out of town. So we had people come from London, Surrey and Milton Keynes, so not in Luton. And they said, just watching the documentary alone, I could feel the community vibe and spirit. And whether you're not part of it on a daily basis, you don't have to live there, but even just being there and being present there, you can feel the vibe, right? I'm sure you can all agree with that.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing, because you don't get that everywhere. Sometimes you need it. Like you're saying now, you live out for uni. I'm sure sometimes you're like, you know what, I could do with a little homely, warm vibe.
Can I just add something? Sometimes when, for example, I'm just going to take, for example, my parents. So when we thought of coming to the UK, language is a barrier for not from both my parents, but it's a bit difficult for the English and all of that. So when we came to Luton, everyone literally speaks Urdu, which is the language my parents speak. And obviously in Bury Park, everyone speaks Urdu, so it's just so comfortable to be there. You're always thinking, how am I going to speak in English? How am I going to ask for this? And I remember my mum used to ask me how to, ask stuff like how much is this, how much is that, and she got there and she was just so comfortable straight away speaking Urdu, and it just reminded her when she was living in India. And just gonna share something really quick. When we went to Bury Park the other day to buy some suits for a party or whatever, the what do you call the storekeeper thing?
The shopkeeper,
the shopkeeper, sorry. He was so funny that we weren't going to buy anything initially, but he just started calling us from the street. So we stayed there. He gave us his whole, we gave him our whole life story, and he gave his life story to us. And we didn't buy anything, but we just talked there for literally 45 minutes, and it was just so funny. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
You just felt that comfort.
I just felt that comfort, yeah.
Which shop was it?
It was the Mem Saab.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah.
I feel like I've experienced that too. You go to them and then they'll be so friendly, and even if you go to an event, they'll ask about everything and everyone, and then you'll just be like, I've just told you so much.
Yeah.
You don't even know the person.
Yeah, you don't know the person.
But like you said, you didn't even buy anything. You don't have to buy anything, but you just had a good chat with them. So
you just have that
lovely,
good, safe feeling. Nothing's going to happen. I'm just having a good chat.
That's so lovely.
I think that community feel is something that's very special, and I wouldn't say exclusive, but I think it's very special to Luton, and especially when you work outside of Luton, and if you're working in London or any kind of city, you forget that community touch, and no one wants to talk to you. And when someone does talk, you're surprised. You're so surprised. Oh, you can talk to me.
Are you talking about when you're travelling on the tube and stuff? Yeah. No one has time to talk to you. They're
no one has time.
Rushing past.
No, but even when I was travelling, recently, I went up north. People were so helpful and so kind and generous, and I was so shocked. I was flabbergasted. Wow, you're talking to me. You're talking to me. I was so surprised, and I thought, wow, people are actually just so kind and generous. But I work in London, I just think everyone's just so individualistic, and this is why we're going to talk about it in our next half of the show.
Yes.
Because everyone is just so engrossed in their busy lives that they don't have the time to even ask or consider someone else. And I think that's something sometimes is very problematic, and I think I want to share my reflections a bit later on. But I do genuinely think that, it's so comforting to know that I come home and I come to a community and it just feels like home, because that sense of belonging isn't just, me being a British Muslim, but my heritage as well. I think that's really important. I think once you kind of move around, you kind of have that
appreciate
reflection.
It more,
you appreciate it. And Issa, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share?
It's exactly what you're saying, because I'm going through that right now, where I've worked in London or working from home for the last 3 years, and now I'm back in Luton in a job, and I literally realised how much it's actually really nice to be working in a local community. You're not just a number in a company in the food chain stuff. You're actually a person, and you matter, and you can build that feeling with your team. So I think that's so nice to have. Yeah.
More on that actually, because since you've worked in London and you're working in Luton, what kind of the differences have you seen in terms of just management, or even group settings and team kind of ethic, I guess?
Yeah, I think it's what you say, you will always be you're a bit of a number. As much as people will be nice to you, you'll never get that comfort feeling. If something really was happening at home, could I actually go to my manager? I never felt that when I was working there. Maybe because I was also working from home a lot of the time as well, but I never ever got to that level. Whereas here I feel a bit people genuinely want to look out for you, probably because they have the time. I feel when you work for these big corporations, no one really has the time. Again, it comes back to being a very all for yourself. Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting, and I think one of the things that you kind of pointed out is you worked from home from both companies, and the one that you work for Luton, you have that sense of belonging, but when the one that you work in London, is that because of the size of each company, like you just mentioned?
Yeah, it definitely would be that. But now, no, so in the Luton one, I'm actually working in the office. So that was a big, leap of faith I took. I was normally people want to work from home, but I took that leap of faith, and it's actually so nice that I have that. But again, it comes back to, you're right, I think it is maybe the size of the company and stuff like that when you're working for a smaller business. But I think overall, it's just a safety net, you feel in your home. And I think I'm glad, because I did it the opposite way. I'm glad I went London first, lived, because I did also love that. There's good things about that as well. I'm glad I did that, and then now I've come back to home, whereas I feel when you do home straight away, you always get that craving, what's more is out there.
Sonia, do you have quick thoughts? We've got 2 minutes left for this one.
2 minutes?
Sure.
Oh, gosh. It's so interesting to hear what Anissa has said. I think the way she phrased it as well, like, it is true. When you maybe work in Luton or nearby, you might think, what else is out there? But Anissa's saying she went to London, she did the commute or big corporation and so on. And she's like, actually, I'm quite enjoying working closer to home now. But it just depends on the individual, right? I guess everyone's different, and it depends what you're looking to do in your career as well.
Yeah, I think absolutely right. For me, because I haven't worked in Luton, so I don't really have any personal reflections. But I do want to ask Farine, but although she hasn't worked, and only you've got a minute to tell me your thoughts, it's like, what's the differences now of living in the community that's away from Luton? Just because you actually were from Spain and you moved to Luton and now you moved again.
Yeah, she's always moving.
You got 50 seconds.
I'm just going to say I feel really comfortable in Luton in this last 50 seconds. And then in London, there's no community feeling. Because I go to a university with my sister, then that's my community.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, because like there's so many people in university that come from different places and everything. I'm going to talk really fast. But yeah, Luton is safe. There's a big community if you like Luton.
Farine, calm, it's fine. You talk fast anyway. You put so much pressure on it.
Pressure, okay.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's great. It's a really safe place. Obviously, my parents, my family's here and everything, so I do kind of get homesick, but I have both best words.
I love that.
Thank you, Anissa. Are we done for the first half of the show?
I think kind of the reflection is that we have experienced both, and I think one of the things that I feel like I really want to speak about in the next half is about how we felt a sense of community versus individualism. So we do look forward to having you on the next half. See you in the next half, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
You're listening to an Inspire FM podcast, making available our popular programs from our daily broadcast on Inspire FM. Ya hala, ya hala, ya hala, ya hala, ya hala.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to Sister Speak. You're here with me, Mariam. Also joining the studio is Farine and Sonia. On the first half of the show we talked about Sonia's new documentary that she's produced and the premiere of it and our reflections on community. And on this half we're going to be speaking about greed and individualism. I think it's quite a good dichotomy to kind of compare the two. So I'm going to start off just right into it. I'm going to ask my first question, which is, how do you define greed and what does it mean to have greed in your life?
I would define greed. I mean, I made the plan, so I kind of read the definition. I forgot now, but I would describe it as trying to chase something when you have everything at the expense of other people. Yeah.
Wow, that's a really profound. Good definition.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my definition of greed. Just trying to chase for something, even though you have, a roof over your head and all of this, and at the expense of other people's. How would you say other people's lives, other people's business?
Just at the expense of other people. Others, yeah.
What about yourself, Sonia?
Well, I think Farine has got the most concise and perfect definition now.
I think so as well. But how does that manifest in your life in reality?
If I heard just greed alone, I usually think of when something or someone or like an object or a corporation or a person wants too much. And again, if it's like going to affect someone negatively. But just wanting too much, I think, is just greedy.
Yeah, I think a lot of the times I attribute to when someone wants too much and it affects their moral compass. I think that's when I think about corporation, that's when I think about, okay, well, you're thinking about profits and competitiveness, but then you're not thinking about the moral implications. And then that's when I think that's greed, because is it necessary or is it just a want? I think that's how I kind of measure that. But even within my own life, in just even the mundane things like, do I really need to eat this much food?
Oh, wow, yeah.
I really don't.
I get greedy
and
like that.
It's something that like you're kind of succumbing to your desires because you can buy all this food and you probably can't eat it, but I feel like that comes from a sense of greed because
you're just being greedy.
You just
want to show everyone that you have it.
Or it's not even showing everyone. Maybe if you want to put it in social
like
media,
fulfilling a desire.
It's just fulfilling a desire.
But
I think
irrational desire sometimes. Just a silly one.
I think it's kind of interchangeable sometimes. So that's how I look at it. But in terms of when you're thinking about in terms of like morals, do you think that having a value system helps you kind of navigate greed?
A value system as in your family and all of that?
Your principle, however you define value system. So for me, my value system would be, it derives from religion and my principles, or even just generically, do you think value systems impact the way you, look at greed, or how you kind of navigate it in your own life?
My value system, obviously with religion is a big thing. I think my dad has really taught me to just be satisfied with whatever you have. We don't lack anything. We have water, we have electricity, we have everything. There's so many people out there who don't have this. They're being snatched away. But this is human rights, basically. Having water, having electricity, having a house. And so if you have that, I don't think you're ever going to be satisfied completely with your life, but you have to be satisfied with what you have and be really grateful for everything that you have. So that is something that my dad has taught me. He's been through so many things, in his life. And one of the things that I'm grateful for is, everything that I have now. So definitely my dad has really taught me to not be greedy in life. But he's never taught me to not be ambitious. There's always a balance, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree with Farine. I think in terms of moral compass and values, obviously religion is the biggest one, but also I think I go to the family a lot, whether it be mum, dad or sisters, even friends. Sometimes you can just check in on them, like, do you think this is right and stuff? Like, you can, I think people do that a lot. You check your own moral compass and stuff, like, am I right or wrong? Like, my peers will tell me, the people who care about me will tell me if I'm right or wrong. But yeah, I agree with Farine. Like, I think a lot of it comes from just a parent telling you, like, stop that, it's greedy.
Yeah.
So the question was, did Sonia?
Yeah, but I kind of got the gist from you guys. No, I think it's what you say, like, you should want things and have goals and stuff, but I think to a certain extent where you're not compromising your morals, like, you're doing everything, but you're not thinking, let me sacrifice all these other things to get there, like sacrifice people and time. So I think it's, like everyone said, it's about balance.
Have you ever experienced a relationship or an instance where you thought greed is something that you just want to stay away from, and that was quite a defining moment for you?
Greed was... Sorry, can you
it impacted you negatively, and I don't know how it manifested. It could be relationships, it could be an instance, but that was a defining moment where you thought, wow, greed can really implicate you.
I think I'm going to say when I started working, obviously I was working part-time and I was, studying and everything, but I was watching the rest of my friends having these jobs and like getting paid more than I was. So all I wanted to work more hours, and that started, showing negatively in my exams, and I started to do my homework, all because I wanted more money, I wanted more hours, I wanted to show that I was working. So obviously my dad was like, this has to stop, like, you can't do this. So that was one of the times where I was like, I was chasing so much stuff that it wasn't that important. Like, at that time I had everything, I didn't need that extra money, but I was just chasing that all the time, and I just wanted to show everyone, I'm doing this. So yeah, definitely that was one.
Thank you for sharing that. I think, and being really vulnerable about that, because I think that kind of manifests in different ways, especially the more you work. I think competition culture is one of those manifestations. Anissa, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think when you're young and you get your first job, it's a bit like another side of independence. Like, you get this thing, you're like, I've got money, and sometimes a lot of us are in like good positions where that money we just need to spend it on ourselves. So we spend it on ourselves. So you do get a bit like, not, I would say, greedy, maybe materialistic, and you try and treat yourself, and you get kind of lost in that, and then at one point you have to take a step back. You're like, okay, it's not all about things, I have to use my money wisely, I have to have use my brain a little bit. So I think that's another thing. I saw myself getting a bit lost, be like, I'm a bit independent now. Before, if I used to have to ask someone, like, now I can just go out and buy it myself.
True.
So definitely learning that.
I think for me, I can't really think of any examples, but if I'm thinking of the whole topic, it would be during school time. So I think that aside from grades, which we should all have ambitions to get good grades and so on, I think with the extracurricular, because I took part in every single after school club and activity that you can ever imagine. Anything there was, like ambassador for this, event day this, I applied. I think part of that was sometimes comes to greed, a little bit of greed, a bit of like showing off, I think, or like, I got it and you didn't, or I've got this many things, how many things did you tick off under your belt? Farine's nodding, she gets me.
I completely understand what you're saying.
The overachiever, the extracurricular student, we just have to tick off every single thing we could find. Sometimes it was like, was that actually for your development? Did you genuinely want to go to that, or was it just another, I need to achieve this and get it under my belt? Yeah, well, LinkedIn, but like high school times, right? So I don't know what we had then, but exactly, you're getting where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So I think some of it was just like you're just being greedy now, or you're just trying to one up someone else. It was not for your personal benefit or gain.
Oh, that's really interesting. Did you think that applied to you when you were in university? I imagine you would have been involved in a lot of things in university.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't think it applied at uni at all, because the university, the actual content is so difficult and hard that you're like...
No, but in terms of extracurricular...
No, because the extracurricular is actually for releasing stress and having fun, not ticking up. For me, it wasn't like I would only ever go if I wanted to go, not like a... And it's too big to compare. Whereas in school, I feel like everyone in your year at one point, so you can, if that person's done that thing, so you can compare it in your head.
This is where my greed came in. I don't know if it talks, but you feel like you've spent so much money on tickets, so you need to utilize the time spent at uni for university, because if you commute, and I was like, okay, I need to get involved in stuff, so I utilize all the money I'm spending on my ticket.
That's like, mindset as well.
If I'm getting a day ticket, okay, I was like, I guess I only have like 2 classes, but like maybe like actually spend the whole day, even the evening there. So I think I had a bit of that mindset sometimes.
I think that's efficient.
I think I think that is efficient.
Okay, yeah, not greedy.
So actually, that's a good segue for my next question, because, and I'm going to say it to you, Anissa, now. How do you differentiate between healthy ambition and unhealthy greed?
I think it does come back to like how much you would sacrifice in terms of morals and times. Like healthy ambition is like goals you have for yourself, as in like for yourself, like, and it's all about like bettering yourself. Whereas I think with greed, it's like it's only like self-serving. With like, I think when like you hear about someone that has goals and it's like, oh, I want to make myself comfortable for like my future, my family. That I think when I hear these kind of things, it's so nice. Or when people are like, oh yeah, I need this for myself, I need to spend it just on cars. Like you can have balance of both, but when people only want to spend it on materialistic things, like it's not a bad thing, but it's like you can tell where their kind of happiness and like their source of like greed comes from. So I think it's just finding that kind of balance, I would say.
Sonia, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's a fine line. It's really hard to tell sometimes if it's, what did you say, healthy ambition against unhealthy greed.
Yes.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult because I hate the word greed. I don't think anyone should be greedy, but sometimes it's a motivator, because if I don't want to use the word greedy again, but if you really want something and it's going to be good for you, there's like a fine line. Like it's an ambition, it's good for you, but it's also you're greedy for it. Does that make sense? I don't know.
I think greed is such a strong term.
It's a strong word.
It's a very strong term, and I think it can't be used interchangeably in terms of someone's really passionate about achieving certain something. But then again, I think Anissa mentioned that it should have been the expense of compromising your morals or compromising how you view other people, and especially if that makes you feel like you're elevating yourself to undermine other people. That's when it's
just so like self-serving, like you don't even worry about anyone else but yourself. I think that's a major thing. Like, I'm not saying it's not wrong, you should put yourself first sometimes, but I think when you just have that thing where like if there was ever an opportunity and like you literally, it was about like only you can have like a win in it and no one else, I think that kind of mindset is really bad.
I think one of the things that we speak a lot about in our radio show is that if you get an opportunity and you see an opportunity, you should share it with other people, and you should bring everyone to the table, and you extend the table as opposed to just wanting yourself on that table. So I think that's really important. I think the next thing I want to kind of talk about is what kind of the strategies that all of you have kind of developed as you're going through your education, through university, that's helped you kind of achieve certain ambitions, despite having this kind of external pressure to validate whether your ambitions are worthy of social media or just worthy of some people's social perception.
Okay, why did you all look at me? I'll start, but you all have to answer the question.
Of course,
yeah. I think this sounds so basic, and it is really hard to get in your head though, is that nobody really cares. It is so hard to get into your head though, because you can't help but think, but they do though, or like the comments are being made really and truly, they're really deep down. It's a strategy because you have to remember it and internalize it, remind yourself that actually you shouldn't worry about what other people think. First of all, they shouldn't care, and they don't really care, and they move on, and people have their own problems in life. But also do not let that be any kind of factor in your decision making process. That doesn't mean your close circle, and that doesn't mean the people you value, so obviously parents, family, friends that you actually think want good for you. But I'm talking about outside of that. Don't try and just think that I need to do what's right for me, not what looks good to a third party far away. Yeah, this is a hard one, but that's one of the strategies. I'm going to think of some more while everyone else answers.
I think a major thing for me recently has been like sometimes when I'm traveling And like when I'm traveling on holiday, and then sometimes like, you know, I find myself so invested, like trying to capture it, not even for social media. Okay, it is for social media, but for my memories. And then I'm like, I'm not actually, again, like you said, about being present in the moment. So I kind of like, that kind of me, I don't know if you call it greed or like social perception and stuff, and you're like a bit like, I take a backseat myself. I'm like, I'm going to actually enjoy the moment. I'm going to put my phone away and stuff, because, but then I also want like, okay, no, I need to put something on social media, but like, and they only see the good parts. They don't see the part where I'm literally like dying in the heat, like, you know, literally fighting flies and stuff. So I think it just, I know what you're trying to say. Sometimes you think about living this like show life, but then you have to realize, okay, what is actually that's making you happy? Like, again, like you said, people actually don't care. Like, they scroll past it like nothing. I do it to other people.
It's a difficult one for me because I'm just a family person, so everything that I do in my life, I always ask everyone in my family, and if they don't like it, I'm not gonna do it. I don't have that self, how do you say that self, you know?
Oh, you're not autonomous yet.
Yeah, like I don't want to. I hate making decisions by myself, and I always have to go through it to my dad, my mom, and my sisters. Those are my 3 people, and if they all agree, then that's great. I'm gonna do it. If one of them is disagreeing, then there's a problem. I have to do something. I have to make. Then it doesn't matter if I'm getting stuck in the process or I don't like the process or anything like that. I always do it because I always have that anxiety that if it doesn't work out or anything, then it's gonna be on me that I took that bad decision. Does that make sense? So it's really something that I have to work on, because I feel like it does take a big toll on my mental health, because instead of thinking what I want to do, what is gonna make me happy in my life, in my career, for example, is more important than what my parents are gonna do. So yeah.
Do you think that shifted a little bit as you've gone to university now, and you have to take decisions independently, especially when you're in your first year, you've moved out, you're responsible for your education. University's not going to chase you up as you were in sixth form. And do you think that has kind of developed a little bit more, your ability to make those decisions, or do you think you feel challenged the fact that you have to?
It's a weird one because academically, I've always been really independent. I've always, if there's an assignment or anything, I'm always like doing it. And I joined a week late to the university, so I catched up literally the day I came back. So academically, I'm always really independent. It's just my decisions in life, what uni I'm going to, where I'm going to study, what do I have to do in the week. It's a bit tiring sometimes, but if I don't do it, I have so much anxiety of what my parents are going to think. And I don't know if... obviously, I talked about this on the radio before, but when I was changing unis, that process of, going through clearing, changing my career from law to computer science took such a big, toll on my mental health. And I remember I started losing hair. I couldn't talk with anyone. It was horrible, honestly. So, and I feel like that was a sign for me that, I have to start making the decisions by myself. And if I made the right decision from the beginning, I wouldn't have been in that position. So yeah,
it's a process, Farine.
It is, yeah.
I think one of the things, my kind of reflections on that is, I think that kind of derives from our cultures back home, where everyone kind of comes together and makes a decision for a person.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's kind of intrinsic in a lot of people's perceptions and mentalities, and that's what they bring here. And I think different families have a different dynamic in terms of how they enforce that. But I think I just want to ask about your experiences where you had to make a decision that was independent and was for yourself, against perhaps, let's just say, your community or your family in this sense. And how did you navigate that?
I actually had something to add to the last question.
Go ahead.
Do you want me to?
No,
Sorry,
go ahead.
It's confusing. No, because you asked what kind of strategies do you use to
navigate that?
To navigate greed, or like those desires, those greedy desires and so on. And one thing I just remembered is that whole, it's a quote, and I think it is Islamic as well, which is like, what's meant for you will never pass you.
Yes.
And it's so profound, and it's not just, like I said, not for me, isn't just that Islam, I think is true in every way in life. And so if you feel like that's one thing that you say greedy is a desire and so on, and it's not working, I would say don't worry, because if it's not meant for you, then it was not meant for you. But what is meant for you will never pass you. Yeah. So it will come eventually. It's a process. Things will happen for you. It's a process, which is what I said to you as well. Yeah. And I think that's something I would say to my younger self or to younger people, because you just want to rush. You can't help it. Everybody wants the thing, and they think I have to do all of these things to achieve it. And it's like, sometimes if you do what's right and little steps that you take for your own career or progress or whatever it is, you will get there eventually, or what's meant for you will come for you and will never pass you. So that's just some ease to give to yourself, because at the end of the day, you can keep chasing everything forever and you'll never end. So you just need to have that, relax I just added that to the last question. You can do the next one now.
Anissa, I feel like you wanted to add something.
No, I think she kind of summarised that really well.
Yeah, what I was going to add to that as well is I think what we're kind of getting through this show is that desire is a huge motivator of greed, and it's when you become enslaved by desire, that's when greed kind of manifests. So I think that's something that I think throughout the show we kind of talked about, especially for young people. I think we have access to all these desires. We see it on social media. We see it in our day-to-day life, and it's all we want. And especially when we don't have access to it, the vigor of it feels a lot more and it's more edgier. But as you grow older, you realize actually we don't really require that. It's not really necessary. And especially in the kind of political climate we're in, and we're seeing the tragedies that are taking place across the world, we kind of realize that we have so much to be grateful for. And I think that's one way that I can combat greed, or just having those desires, just being grateful for what you actually have. The fact that we're able to safely go home, the fact that we are able to access water, the fact that we have food on the table, it's a huge privilege, and we're seeing that everywhere right now. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. But going back to the question that I wanted to ask about community, since Farine was talking about how her family and everyone gets involved in terms of decision making, I just want to ask Sonia and Anissa, were there instances that's happened to you and where you had to navigate a decision that you wanted to make independently, however there was conflict within your home or people that you care about who could not understand those decision processes? And you don't have to be specific in terms of examples, but just vaguely kind of touch upon how you navigated it.
I think, as I'm getting older, as much as all of us, we wish we can relive our childhood and stuff, but as I'm getting older, I think the beauty of it is you get wiser. I'm the youngest in my family, and I feel like as I got older, as I got wiser, I'm making independent decisions, and sometimes, alhamdulillah, some of them have been the right decisions. You get that respect from your family where you kind of get okay, they trust you to make your own things. So I've been fortunate to have that, and I feel like one thing I've learned in life, even if you make the wrong decision, as long as it's your own, I feel like it doesn't hurt as much. So I think I'd always say to someone, obviously take people's opinions into consideration, but at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to have to live every situation in your life. So really just focus on making your own thing. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's what it is. I think there's no such thing as a wrong decision. It's just a learning opportunity. Sonia, what's your thoughts?
In terms of the original question, I can't think of a time. I mean, because I'm like Farine. That's why when you said it, I was saying, wow, in relation, I can relate. I always, just naturally, you can't help it, but you check in with 5 different people. Is this the right thing? Should I do this? Should I do this? And
sorry, I gave such a general answer because I couldn't think of a specific thing.
Yeah, but I think as I am getting older, again, I think it's a good thing about getting older, something to look forward to. Yes. You do get wise and you do feel more responsibility, because what you said, Farine, was, if I make this decision on my own, then it's all on me if it goes wrong. But it's no, that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
If you act like an adult, people will treat you like an adult. It's true.
Yeah. I have to start taking this advice into consideration. Actually, do it.
So you got time. You got time. But I think there's probably been times where I've made a decision against what was advised for me for my own benefit, but I can't think of it right now because, again, it's like she said, it's learning. Even if you get it wrong, you learn from it.
But
and you
even with this movie, remember when you were making it, you had to make a really strong decision, because you had to take some time away from work.
Yeah,
as well.
Actually, Anissa is right. Then even in my documentary, not even that, I remember taking someone out of it because the quality wasn't there. I never had time to reshoot, and it was really hard because I didn't want to, and they gave a lot of time and effort. You feel really bad, but it's other people were no, go again, try again, and I was no, I need to do this one thing. And it worked out well, alhamdulillah, for me in the end. But sometimes it doesn't work, but it's just adult, like you said, it's an adult thing, isn't it? That's, you have to deal with these things.
Trust yourself to make the right decisions, and if they don't, it's what we say, what's meant for you will come to you. Will never pass you.
Yeah, there's another quote.
I need to I'm going to rehearse that quote and come back to you, but you go on.
No, so I think there's another quote, and I don't know if it's Islamic as well, is that if there's something's meant for you, even if it's underneath 2 mountains, you will reach it. And if it's between your 2 teeth, then you will never, even if it's between your teeth and it's not meant for you, then you will not reach it.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. We all need to rehearse the quotes, but
I think it is Islamic one,
I think so.
I have it in my camera roll.
You have it in your camera roll?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. What else is in your camera roll?
That was funny.
I have a lot of quotes in my camera roll.
Yeah.
Anyways, next question.
Oh, okay.
Was it time?
No. So I think the final thoughts is... Okay, I think the final kind of roundup I kind of want to ask, especially because I think we talked about the positive aspects of community, but I do think there's also the contrast of it when communities are quite pedantic in terms of how we kind of live our lives. I just want to ask, like, how have you navigated that in terms of, I think there's this whole kind of notion of what will people say, and I think that's quite interesting in our cultures and communities. So just your thoughts on that in the last kind of couple of minutes of the show.
I would say, obviously, in the first half, we spoke about how we actually love having that community aspect where we can get it. But then I think, again, it's taking responsibility is I want to feel the community vibe up into here. Have your own boundaries, set that, and think you are separate from my personal decisions. I might need you for something else, or like the vibes, or shopping, or eat, or just a chit chat, or a taste of home, or something. But set that boundary and remember where you draw the line, because community can't make. They're not going to live your life, like Anissa said. You have to live with your consequences and your actions. So.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's what you said. Like, as much as we want to hold on to our roots, there's also so many like traits and traditions that we want to also like steer away from. Like, we want to make sure, like, for our future generations, we're not repeating any like negative patterns. So I think that's a massive thing. And I think, just going back, I feel like I go through that a lot, where I set a goal for myself or I do something. I'm like, is this actually because it's going to make me happy, or is it because it's like a social standard? And I think that's something we all go through, where like we kind of mold our kind of goals like according to social standards. And I think you do have to reflect back and be like, okay, what part of this is actually making me happy?
Yes, and just an example on that is we'll talk about this in another show because I can go on, but a wedding, a South Asian wedding, sometimes just that quote what Anissa said, are you doing it to make others happy, or are you doing that to make yourself happy? And I'm taking anything from hiring a massive hall to food, like what is it actually for? But yeah, I'll let Farine carry on.
Yeah, I'm just going to take the example of the wedding. You don't want to have a big wedding and be broke for the rest of, your marriage. So having a small nikah is sufficient. Although, but what does it matter in a wedding? It's just it's halal and all of that. So
but I guess it's like whatever your choice is, as long as it's your choice, your happiness. Yeah. I think it goes back to the whole theme of this, like the greed part of it. Like when you do it, like, do you do it for the show? Like, this is going to look good, like, to other people. Like, that kind of greed comes into it, like, with the wedding. Because I can sometimes find myself like, oh, yeah, you want everything. And then you're like, no, like, I want nothing. So I think it does really tie in with greed, like something like a wedding.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good way to kind of end the show, because I think we've kind of discussed multiple points in terms of thinking about how community and the positive aspects of it, but also how sometimes it can restrain us and it can constrain us to notions that are not really conducive to a healthy livelihood, and especially how we navigated it. But I think one of the things that we should appreciate, that our families have these traditions and they weren't given the opportunity to kind of explore other avenues, and we've had that opportunity to kind of make our own responsible decisions, and we have the autonomy to think about ourselves, and whereas they didn't. And I think that's something that we should really appreciate, because we have that scope, they didn't. So I think it's really important to recognise and acknowledge that. Thank you all for coming to the show today. I really appreciated this discussion, and we look forward to hearing from you in the next discussion. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We stream our daily broadcast on inspirefm.org. You'll find all our daily updates on our social media at Inspire FM Luton.